Hello everyone, welcome to Options with Doug, streaming live daily on Bookmap Discord and the Bookmap YouTube channel at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Before I get started, I need to go through the disclosures. General disclosure. All Bookmap Limited materials, information, and presentations are for educational purposes only and should not be considered specific investment advice nor recommendations. Risk disclosure. Trading futures, equities, and options involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. Here's my contact information. The best way to get in touch with me is through Discord. My name on Discord is Doug P. Also in Bookmap Discord, there's an Options-Doug chat channel. That's a great place to post questions, comments, and content related to the topics of my presentation and the topics of the channel that I'll go through in just a moment. And note that Bookmap Discord is a very large community. There's a wide variety of content there: options, stocks, futures, crypto, also in a wide variety of languages. Great content, traders working together to help each other learn to use Bookmap and to help become better traders. I'm also on X, formerly known as Twitter. My name there is @Pless. Here are the key tenets of my approach to trading. Here are the key tenets to my approach for trading. First of all, I believe that options trades and market maker hedging activity are key drivers of price in many stocks and futures, and definitely the stocks and futures that I follow, large cap tech stocks as well as equity futures. And for the S&P 500, SPX is the underlying index. SPX is the S&P 500. SPY is the ETF version of that index, and ES is a derivative of SPX. So when traders buy and sell puts and calls on SPX and SPY, market makers take the opposite side of those trades and they hedge their delta exposure with ES futures. And for the Nasdaq, NDX is the underlying index, and QQQ is the ETF version of the Nasdaq 100, and NQ is a derivative of NDX. So just like the S&P 500, when traders buy and sell puts and calls in NDX and QQQ, market makers take the opposite side of those trades and they hedge their delta exposure with NQ futures. The focus of my presentation today and the focus of the Options-Doug chat channel is options order flow, the impact of options markets on stocks and futures, and the influence of market maker hedging flow on price action. I have a two-step process for trading, and the first is planning, and I use positional analysis. I look at how traders and market makers are positioned in the options market and how those positions change from day to day to develop a thesis regarding the expected trading range and volatility for the day, as well as a directional bias. And the second step in my process is execution. I look at real-time order flow on Bookmap and real-time market maker hedging flow on Spotgamma Hero to confirm my thesis, and for setups for entries and exits. And when I talk about setups today, I will be focusing on an underlying asset. And setups in those assets can be taken any number of ways. For example, the S&P 500 setups can be taken with ES futures, SPY shares, SPY options, SPX options, or even ES options. Questions and comments are welcome, and I will be watching both the Options-Doug chat channel and Discord, as well as the chat and YouTube for your questions and comments. Please feel free to post, and I'll do my best to answer your questions. And hello, NC40G, welcome, glad you're here. Afternoon for me. All right, here's my agenda for today, Tuesday, February 27th. First of all, I want to go over news items, economic data for today as well as the rest of the week. Then I'll go through my positional analysis. Then I'll review some setups from earlier today. Then I'll take a look at the live market. And when I get to the live market, if anyone has any stocks they want me to take a look at, please let me know and I'll be glad to take a look at them. All right, let's start with economic data. There were a couple of data reports this morning. First of all, the durable goods orders report came out 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, and that was less than expected, less than previous, and also a negative number, lower than zero. And I really didn't see a whole lot of reaction to that data. And then at 10 a.m., consumer confidence came out. There was more of a reaction to that data release. It came in lower than expected and lower than the previous number. So that was today. The rest of the week, GDP report comes out tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. That's the fourth quarter second estimate. And then Thursday, the big data release of the week is the PCE data. Comes out at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Could be a market mover. And then on Friday, 9:45, there's manufacturing PMI data. Also at 10 a.m., more manufacturing PMI data. And then consumer sentiment also at 10 a.m. on Friday. And note the jobs report that normally comes out on the first Friday of the month. It looks like that will be next Friday, not this coming Friday. Also a variety of Fed speakers during the week. All right, let's take a look at the S&P 500. Let's go to ES Futures and Bookmap. And let's just take a look at this is the reaction to the 10 a.m. data release. Initially a bullish reaction, then a reversal lower. Again, that was consumer confidence. And hello, Stephen. Welcome. Glad you're here. Just if somebody in YouTube could let me know, can you hear me? Anurag says hello. All right. He or she is able to hear now. All right. Hello. Welcome, Anurag. Glad you're here. All right. So this is the S&P 500 futures and Bookmap. Before I take a closer look at this chart, I want to step back, take a look at a larger time frame. I'm going to go to the underlying index. And this is the S&P 500. And let's take a look at SPX. So this is the rally that began last year, October 30th. And that rally, SPX rallied for just a little over 1,000 points so far, from the low to the high. All right, so that's the context. SPX still moving up in a very strong rally. Now let's step back and look at a 1 hour chart. That was a 1 day chart. We'll take now a look at a 1 hour chart, 30-day 1 hour chart. I'm going to focus on the expiration dates. This was the Friday expiration for January. January 19th expiration. SPX broke out above the 4,800 level. That's right there. And then on the February expiration, this was also a call-dominated expiration. There was a little bit of a consolidation as expected in a call-dominated expiration, and that was broken up by the NVIDIA earnings release last week that propelled SPX up to just a little over 5,100, and so far marking the high for the all-time high for SPX, as well as the high of the current rally. So during this year, 2024, the call walls for SPX have moved up from 4,800 up to 5,100, where that's the current level of call wall. I'll talk more about that in just a minute. All right, so now let's take a look at the levels on this chart. I'm going to zoom in just a bit. Actually, that didn't help because the put wall is way down low. Alright, so first of all, the dashed purple lines are showing the lower and upper weekly expected move. This is based on the options market, updated once a week. These levels stay on the chart for the entire week. And then the dashed blue lines are showing the lower and upper daily expected move. Also based on the options market, I update those levels once a day. They're based on the closing price from yesterday, so I post both of these levels, the lower and upper weekly and daily expected moves, in Discord the evening before. So I posted the current levels yesterday evening for today. Alright, note SPX is trading within both of those ranges, both of those expected move levels. Alright, the other lines on this chart are showing Spotgamma levels. These are proprietary Spotgamma levels. They're provided to Spotgamma subscribers. They're based on gamma weighted open interest. I'm going to point out the key daily levels. First of all, here's the put wall at 4,500. That's a strike with the largest net negative gamma that can be expected to act as support. And note that level dropped pretty substantially from yesterday, from 5,000 down to 4,500 now. So if you recall from yesterday, the range of levels for SPX was very narrow, with the put wall at 5,000, potential floor, and the call wall at 5,100. Alright, so now the put wall is back down to 4,500. The next level up is the absolute gamma strike. That's at 5,000. That's a strike with the largest absolute positive and negative gamma. That's where most of the gamma weighted open interest is concentrated. And above that is the volatility trigger, VT. That's at 5070. And that is the strike. That is Spotgamma's proprietary gamma and volatility flip level. Below that level, market makers' position on the gamma curve is negative. In a negative gamma environment, market makers have to trade with price to hedge their delta exposure, and that tends to enhance or increase volatility. On the other hand, above that level, market makers' position on the gamma curve is positive. In a positive gamma environment, market makers have to trade against price to hedge their delta exposure, and that tends to subdue or decrease volatility. And note that SPX, it looks like it is trading now below that level today. Then the next level up is 5,100. That's the call wall. That's a strike with large net positive gamma, and that can be expected to act as resistance. And the call wall has remained at 5,100 for several days now. So the potential floor at 4,500, the put wall potential ceiling for price at 5,100, that's the call wall. Alright, shifts in levels. The only shift in level for the SPX was the put wall shifting lower, again down to 4,500. Alright, let's take a look at, let's wrap up our view of SPX by taking a look at a 1 minute chart. This is 3 days worth of data. Note the rejection. This was last Friday. Rejection at the 5,100 call wall. And since Monday, SPX has been trending lower, now down below the volatility trigger. All right, let's take a look at Bookmap now. So in Bookmap, I have my own cloud notes shown in this column, C levels column. So I can show SPX levels. There's the 5070 volatility trigger, and then the SPY 506 volatility trigger is just below that. So I'm showing SPX levels and SPY levels, and then other key ES levels. They're none on this chart. All right, Faro Vyas asked, what happens below volatility trigger? Market makers' position on the gamma curve shifts from positive above to negative below, and that's really a volatility flip level. Below that level, that's where market makers will have to start trading with price to hedge their delta exposure. We'll take a look at the Vanna model in just a minute to get a graphical representation of that. So again, below volatility trigger, we're looking for higher volatility, wider price, wider trading ranges, and market makers trading with price to hedge their delta exposure. All right, so the S&P 500 is below the SPX and SPY volatility triggers. And note there is a difference in price between ES and SPX. And right now that offset, or ES to SPX difference, is about 10 points. So I'm using 10. So I'm using ES minus SPX equal 10. And so the volatility trigger, 50-70 volatility trigger for SPX, I'm showing at ES 50-80. Anurag asked, what are the bottom two levels? All right, so that's another SPX level, also a SPY level. All right, this is the 50-60 SPX level. That was noted as support in the Spotgamma AM Founders Note. So I put those levels on my chart, and what Spotgamma is doing is looking at combo levels and then picking out key levels that they think will act as support. And then that is the 505, SPY 505, that's a large gamma 2 level, and that is also the 0 gamma level. So that is where the gamma actually shifts from positive to negative. Even though below the volatility trigger, market makers will start to need to trade with price to hedge their delta exposure. All right, so very narrow range today in the morning session up until about 11 a.m. So the first 90 minutes I thought was pretty difficult to trade. Price chopping up and down around the two volatility triggers until finally moving lower 11 to 11:30. We'll talk more about setups in a few minutes. All right, let's move on to Nasdaq. Oh, shifts in levels. I mentioned SPX, and for SPY, the volatility trigger shifted lower. You saw that on the chart, and also the put wall shifted lower, same as SPX. All right, here's Nasdaq, NQ futures and Bookmap. And before I take a closer look at this chart, I do want to take a look at the underlying index charts. I'm going to start with QQQ. This is a 1-minute chart. Right shaded portion showing data for today. And this is a gamma level, large gamma 2 level, acting as resistance earlier today. And then earlier 436 acting as support. And then price didn't quite make it down to the 435 0 gamma level. All right, so those are the levels in play for QQQ to date. Note also the volatility trigger at 437. So right now QQQ trading below its volatility trigger. And that is also the absolute gamma strike. So that volatility trigger for QQQ shifted higher, and the absolute gamma strike for QQQ also shifted higher. All right, let's take a look at the NDX chart real quick. Last time I looked, there were no gamma levels in play for today. I don't see any. The 18,000 level is up here above. Let's take a look at the NDX chart. There's the 18,000 level up above. All right, back to NQ Futures and Bookmap. Again, I have my own cloud notes. So I can show NDX levels. There's that 18,000 level. And there's the QQQ, large gamma 2 level, acting as resistance. $436. That's also right on top of the NQ 950 level, acting as support. There's the volatility trigger, 437. And then just about 1 o'clock, the 435 level, acting as support. Let's see what that is. That's a combination of levels there. So it's a large gamma 3 level, also the 0 gamma level, and then it was also noted as support in the Spotgamma AM Founders Note. And they were spot on, did its job, acting as support, again as noted in the Spotgamma AM Founders Note. All right, so those are the levels in play for Nasdaq, primarily the QQQ levels from 435 to 438. 438 acting as resistance, and so far today 435 acting as support. And for NDX, again, just to wrap up shifts and levels, volatility trigger shifted higher, put wall lower, and for QQQ, volatility trigger higher and absolute gamma strike shifted higher. So slightly bullish, shifts higher for QQQ. All right, let's take a look. Let's wrap up positional analysis by taking a look at gamma notional to see how market makers were positioned on the gamma curve at the beginning of the day. This is the data table at the bottom of the AM Founders Note, noting gamma notional. This is market makers' position on the gamma curve at the beginning of the day for the S&P 500, Nasdaq, and Russell 2000. Note for SPX, at the beginning of the day, market makers' gamma notional was still positive. So on a positive gamma notional, this indicates traders are short calls, market makers are long calls, hence the positive gamma, and they have to trade against price to hedge their delta exposure. And if price continues lower and trades probably ends the day below the volatility trigger, that gamma notional may shift to negative tomorrow. And it did shift to negative for SPY. So from yesterday to today, gamma notional did shift lower for the S&P 500, still positive for SPX, and now shifted to negative for SPY, and then still slightly positive for Nasdaq. Let's take a quick look at the gamma model so we can get a graphical representation of what that means. Let's take a look at our SPX chart again. Low of the day right around 50.57, high right around 76. Let's see. All right, so here's 75. That's pretty close to 76. All right, so let's back up. Let's take a quick look at what's on this chart so we can understand it. So on the vertical axis, this is showing a market maker's delta notional. And the horizontal axis showing the spot price for SPX. There are two curves on this chart. The first curve is showing how market makers' delta notional may change with changes in price only, and the purple curve adds implied volatility to the equation. That shows how market makers' delta notional may change with changes in price and implied volatility. And that change in delta with a change in implied volatility is the Vanna effect. All right, so let's go back to the chart, and we want to look at the purple curve. We're going back to the high of the day, right around 74. So as price was dropping, this curve shows that market makers' delta notional was increasing. Market makers want to remain delta neutral. So in this portion of the Vanna model here, this is showing that market makers' delta notional again was increasing, and they had to sell futures to hedge their delta exposure. And that tends to enhance or increase volatility. And that's typical of a negative gamma environment below the volatility trigger. And if price moves higher, implied volatility drops, market makers' delta notional will decrease, and they can buy back their short futures. All right, the curve is similar for SPX and SPY and QQQ. All right, let's wrap up positional analysis now and move on to execution. So other than Bookmap, everything that we've looked at so far is based on static data. The levels that I showed on the chart, the key daily levels. And now we're going to take a look at real-time data. Move on to execution, the second part of my trading process. I'm going to start by looking at what options traders have been doing today. So this is the hero signal in Bookmap. HERO stands for Hedging Impact Real-Time Options. So what this chart is showing is options trades and market maker hedging activity for a combined signal for SPX, SPY, XSP, and ES futures. And a falling hero signal indicates traders are taking negative delta positions. That means they are buying puts and or selling calls. Market makers take the opposite side of those trades, and they have to sell futures to hedge their delta exposure. And then a rising hero signal indicates traders are taking positive delta positions. They are buying calls and or selling puts. Market makers take the opposite side
Stop
of that.
Stop ESH for CME by 330.
Sorry about that. An alert in Bookmap. So market makers take the opposite side of these trades, and they have to buy futures to hedge their delta exposure. All right, let's zoom into this chart. So this morning, I thought this choppy range here was very difficult to trade. There were better trades in Nasdaq and elsewhere earlier today. So I do want to point out a short. It took some patience. So around 10:20, the hero signal made a high, then made a lower high right around 10:50, and then started moving lower. One thing that Spotgamma has pointed out, one thing to watch out for, a lot of flow alerts. This is indicative of chop. A lot of flow alerts. All right, so really the clear setup in the S&P 500 really didn't take place until about 11 a.m. So let's go take a look at Bookmap. Go to ES, let's zoom in. So during this chop, ES was making a series of lower highs. And then really broke below these two volatility triggers, somewhere between 11 and 11 a.m. There were a couple of retests as the SP 500 continued to make lower highs. Retest of the 506 level. And, oops, wrong tool. CVD started moving lower. Finally made it to the next target below. These two levels that Anurag had asked about, the 50-60 support level and the 505 large gamma 2 level. Scroll over to the right a little bit and note all the liquidity in the order book. This is the heat map and book map showing a history of the limit orders and the order book. And these were all limit buy orders. With their below price limit buy orders, all those levels, all those orders consumed. Absorption here with a final stop run down to liquidity at 67. Stop run shown by the falling yellow line, and then price reversed higher. Let's go back to Hero. Right around 1 o'clock, the Hero signal shifts higher. And that's when price reversed. Traders started taking positive delta positions. All right, so that is the that's the S&P 500, and again, pretty difficult read in the morning up until about 11 a.m. at least for me. And yeah, Steven says tricky open today, tricky first 90 minutes for me. All right, Stephen also says, slowly getting to understand that Vanna curve graph. I don't know if Spotgamma recently did a 30-minute webinar on Vanna. I don't know if that's available on their Bookmap, on their YouTube channel or not. It's worth taking a look at. Provides a lot more in-depth information on Vanna. So it's worth taking a look at if you want to better understand Vanna and how that affects what market makers are doing. All right, Steven says he watched it this weekend. It's definitely worth a watch. Help you better understand Vanna and how it has an impact on market makers' hedging activity. All right, let's move on to Nasdaq. Thought Nasdaq was a much easier read today. All right, so let's go to Hero first, see what options traders are doing. And for Nasdaq, I've been looking at this Mag 7 signal. Getting a little choppy now. Let's zoom in on the morning. So this was much more, I thought, much more linear than the Hero signal for the S&P 500. So what this is showing is options trades and market maker hedging activity for a combined signal for the stocks known as the Magnificent Seven: Apple, Amazon, Google, Meta, Microsoft, Nvidia, Tesla. And these stocks make up a very large portion of the Nasdaq 100, and they drive price, and we'll see in a minute that Nvidia tends to drive the Mag 7, which tends to drive the Nasdaq. All right, so let's zoom in on this again. Go back to the morning. So this is what I saw, this reversal in the hero signal right around 942. So note how that moves higher, and then just a couple minutes later, this is using price for QQQ, makes a low, and price starts to move higher. So initially traders were taking negative delta positions, and 942 they switch, start taking positive delta positions, and price moves higher. So let's go take a look at Nasdaq. We'll zoom in. All right, this reversal point was at, now it's showing 436. That's QQQ 436, right on top of the NQ 17,950. Let's take a look at order flow. The volume dots are showing market buy minus sell. Magenta dots indicate more sellers than buyers. Green volume dots indicate more buyers than sellers. So they're showing delta. So as price was approaching that level, remember traders started taking positive delta positions in the Mag 7 stocks. Also, large traders were buying with iceberg orders. That's shown by the rising light blue line, and also the on-chart indicator there. Large traders buying with iceberg orders. The dark blue line is showing cumulative volume delta starts to increase. Aggressive buyers come in at that level and pretty quickly move Nasdaq up to the QQQ 438 large gamma 2 level. Alternate entry point at VWAP and the 437 level. That was right after the data release. So jump up in the data release, move back down, then a nice deep pullback for an entry from 437 up to 438. So much easier trade, much easier read for me at least in Nasdaq this morning compared to the S&P 500. Let's scroll over to the right. Let's go back to Hero. Scroll over. So right around 1020. And let's keep track of the turning points. So 940, 1020. Hero signal shifts lower. Nasdaq moves lower. A little bit of a divergence short setup here. And let's go back to Bookmap now. So initial short at 1020 and then divergent short as Hero continued to move lower right around 1035, 1037. So there's the initial entry for a short. Pull back for a short. One more pullback. Until Nasdaq finally made it down to the 435 level right at 1 o'clock. Let's go back to Hero. All right, so here's the 1 o'clock turnaround. All right, any questions so far? We'll take a look at some stocks. Then we'll get to the live market. I'm going to start with AMD. Note 172.50 is the hedge wall. AMD found support at that level. Hero signal shifts from negative to positive as AMD tests that level. Let's see what traders are doing. So initially they were selling calls and buying puts, and at 9:50 they started selling puts and started buying calls. Price moved higher. When traders buy calls, market makers sell the calls, and they have to buy stock to hedge their delta exposure. Let's go to Bookmap. Go to AMD. And I don't have the 172.50 level marked on this chart. You can see a little bit of liquidity here, right at this level, this little bit of shaded region. And that was the low of the day. And aggressive buyers start to come in, shown by the green volume dots. So traders started buying calls, started selling puts, and AMD reverses higher at the 172.50 hedge wall. All right, let's go take a look. Next one I want to take a look at is Netflix. I think Netflix was upgraded today. Let's see what options traders are doing. Go back to Hero. Go to Netflix. Traders were buying calls from the open, also selling puts. They continue to buy calls and sell puts. AMD made it up to the 600, Netflix made it up to the 600 call wall. And note how traders, call buyers took their foot off the gas. Price did consolidate at that level. And right around noon, so they've continued to sell puts all day. And right around noon, they started buying calls again. And prices chopped up and down around the 600 call wall. Let's go back to Bookmap. Here's the 600 call wall. Price shoots up to that level. Call buyers take their foot off the gas. A little bit of consolidation up and down around that level. Traders start to take positive delta positions again. Price moves higher. All right, so that's Netflix. Let's take a look at NVIDIA. Let's go back to Hero. I'm going to go back to the total signal, go to NVIDIA. All right, so I'm looking at the entire day so far for NVIDIA. Let's note the key turning points. 940, 1020 move down, then 1040 move up. So 940, 1020, and then 1040. So that's NVIDIA. Let's go to Mag 7. $940, 1020, 1040. And there, as far as NVIDIA goes, the hero signal after the 1035, 1040 reversal higher continues to move higher. Let's see what traders are doing. So at NVIDIA, they are they are mainly selling puts today. Excuse me. So NVIDIA, net for the day, they are selling calls. That notional value for the orange line showing calls, still a little bit negative. Blue line showing puts. That's positive notional value. They're selling puts for the day. So it looks like they're taking advantage of higher volatility in NVIDIA. Let's go back to the total signal. Sorry, there's a bug in Hero. I have to jump from one instrument to another whenever I shift from puts and calls to total. All right, so let's go back to Bookmap. Go to NVIDIA. Another bullish day in NVIDIA. Sharp reversal lower at the open. Then traders start taking positive delta positions, and NVIDIA continues to move higher. Let's go to Tesla. And a bearish day in Tesla here. Let's see what options traders have been doing. Go to Tesla. Starting right around 10 a.m., hero signal shifted lower. Traders are taking negative delta positions. Note the timely flow alert there. And Tesla was trading above its call wall at 200. Traded below that now, trading just above it. 200 is the key gamma strike and also the call wall. So there's that 200 level. All right, does anyone have any stocks they want me to take a look at? All right, let's check on the S&P 500. All right, now S&P 500 back above the volatility triggers. Let's check on Nasdaq. Also above the QQQ volatility trigger. Let's go back to Hero, go to the Mag 7 signal. So note the turnaround in the signal actually started just about maybe 5 minutes before 1 o'clock, and then price reversed higher right at 1 o'clock as traders continue to take positive delta positions in the Mag 7 stocks. Back to Bookmap. Let's take a closer look at this reversal at 1 o'clock. So we know in the Mag 7 stocks, traders started taking positive delta positions just about 5 minutes before 1 o'clock. And before that, large traders were buying with iceberg orders. That's shown by the rising light blue line here. And I'm showing that in sum mode. I like to show the cumulative effect of all the iceberg orders. You can see on the on-chart indicator, these are not large numbers, but traders were buying with iceberg orders. They were fading the move down, and then also continued to buy as price started to move higher. That's all these blue icons, again, not large numbers when you look at the individual events, but the cumulative effect is moving higher and adding up. And aggressive sellers stop run on the way down, shown by the falling yellow line. Yellow line levels off, and price reverses higher again as traders start taking positive delta positions in the Mag 7 stocks, and aggressive buyers start to come in. Check on the S&P 500. Let's check NVIDIA. Let's go back to Hero for NVIDIA. All right, so NVIDIA 800 is the call wall key gamma strike. So that's the next price target higher. Looks like traders started to take their foot off the gas right around 130 or so. Right now, NVIDIA consolidating. Here's that next target above at 800. They'll have to get through liquidity at 795 first. The heat map in Bookmap is showing a history of the limit orders in the order book. Above price, these are limit sell orders. And this is very typical of a stock. These limit sell orders come into the order book at the cash open, typically stay in the order book until they're filled. And again, these levels of liquidity often act as magnets for price. Again, does anyone have any stocks they want me to take a look at or any questions? Hey Caesar, welcome. Glad you're here. Wants to take a look at Apple. Okay, we can do that. Caesar, was there news about Apple? It certainly looks like it. Let's see what options traders were doing. Let's go to Apple. Note the flow alert. All right, Slow to Razi, thank you very much. Says Apple winding down electric car plans, ending decade-long foray. Some Apple car employees to be cut. Many will shift to AI. Right, so that makes sense. And note if you were watching Apple, this flow alert came in just right around 2:05. Something to get your attention. Let's go take a look at Bookmap. Flow alert came in right around 2:05, and you could have gotten a long entry at VWAP there if you'd been watching that alert, waiting for that. All right, Caesar and Slow to Razi, thanks for pointing that out about Apple. And Caesar says right off the 180 level to previous lows. Looks like some of that liquidity in the order book was absorbed, but it came back in just after that. So there's still some buyers at 180. Hero continues to move higher. So traders buying calls in Apple. And just to add to what Caesar said, 180, sorry about that. $180 is the hedge wall, key gamma strike, and put wall. So support level doing its job, acting as support as expected. Let's check Nasdaq. We'll see. Didn't have a whole lot of impact on the Mag 7 signal. Let's take a look at Nasdaq and Bookmap. And not a whole lot of impact on Nasdaq as well. Looks like Nasdaq started to move higher just a little bit before 2. All right, after an up and down day, so far a bullish afternoon. And ES making its way up to the highs of the day. As well as Nasdaq back up to the 438 level. All right, my time is up. I want to thank everyone for watching. And remember, tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, GDP data comes out. And we'll talk about that tomorrow. All right, everyone, thank you very much for your questions and comments. And thanks for watching. And I will see you tomorrow. Thanks again. Bye.